Well, hello everybody. Welcome to our Inner Healers Web TV. Our topic for this month is vulnerability, and our very special guest is Toni Petrinovich. She's a master teacher who has been helping many people along the years to connect back with their soul, their intention for this lifetime, and work on the absolution of those issues they feel they need to this time. Help me welcome Toni. Hello, Toni. How are you doing today?
Hi, Luciana. This is wonderful. I'm great. Had so much fun to be on video with you.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's really fun. And it's great, that to have this kind of technology nowadays so that we can really get to more people than we used to before. So tell us, what's vulnerability for you?
Well, the definition of vulnerability is actually the capability to be wounded or to be susceptible to being hurt, except that it also means to be accessible. So I kind of get a giggle about that we have created these opposing definitions for ourselves, because who doesn't want to be accessible? I mean, that's what all the dating sites are about, how accessible everybody is. And the idea of vulnerability, I know, has sort of gotten a bad name, because it makes people feel as though if they are vulnerable, then something bad is going to happen. Like that they will be influenced in a way that they don't want to be influenced, and that they're susceptible to that influence. And basically this has to do with the way that we have constructed our cultures, where the culture says, you don't know, you have to go to an authority that tells you, because you couldn't possibly know the answer to this question. Where innately we already do know most answers to all questions. So we've created a sense of vulnerability being a bad thing, if you will.
So do you think that people are afraid of maybe losing their identity by being influential?
Yes, to a certain degree. The difference between individuality and personality is that we come in as individuals, and each being is an individual. Our personality is sort of painted on us, if you would, from the standpoint of wanting to conform to that which gives praise, like the parent. They give praise, so you begin to develop a personality that either talks a lot, doesn't talk a lot, plays a lot, doesn't play a lot, depending upon what mom and dad say. Oh, good Johnny, good Sarah too. The individual is always present, you as an individual. And because the way we are raised, because our culture creates a desire for constant praise and constant reaffirmation, we begin to feel that we can't let ourselves be vulnerable just strictly as an individual. We can't just be as creative as we want to be and let it all just flow, because the other person isn't going to necessarily agree with us. So then it becomes really a matter of survival from the standpoint of how the brain-mind complex sees it, that we need to create a personality that will survive, and that does not include being vulnerable. Because babies are born vulnerable. We all know that. And then they get to be toddlers and they run around and get into everything, because they're looking for everything. They want to play with everything. Everything is mine. Let's give it to me. And the idea that is stopped within our culture is mainly because of the way we have created our societies. Think about a village in the middle of the Amazon, and there are these children running around in the village playing with everything that is there, and there are people in the village who are responsible for watching the children. So no, Johnny doesn't get to pick up the great sharp dagger and, hit Sally with it, but other than that, they can pretty much do anything they want. So their natural individuality, the vulnerability of that, begins to come to the fore, and you find out who the good hunters are, who the good sewer of cloth is, who the good, tent maker is, whatever roles they have, it all comes up, versus it trying to be bounded and created by authority figures within the individual, the way we have in the Western world.
Mm-hmm. So, when do we lose this freedom to create, or when does the fear to explore the other world starts for us?
Around 2 years old is when we really begin to realize that you're mom and I'm me, and yes, you feed me, but that's about all you're good for at the moment, and I need to go out and see the whole world. Goodbye. And then as we continue growing in that particular type of mindset, dependent upon, again, the boundaries that are placed upon us, to that degree will we decide what is safe and is not safe. Then when we get to be, say, 7 or 9 years old, when the real cortex and the learning capabilities from the intellectual standpoint kick in, then we begin to refine what we are going to literally allow ourselves to experience based upon those years from, say, 2 to 7, where we've been this great explorer. How has that formed our mindset about what is safe to explore and what is not safe to explore? And again, because of the society and the way we're situated, usually parents aren't present. Usually parents are both working. If one parent stays home and can fasten their attention upon the child to make sure that they don't, walk into the middle of the street, then the child has the ability to really feel that vulnerability is accessible as he begins to explore as an individual.
So for our listeners, would you say that there's an unconscious fear of abandonment in this?
Yes, and that begins when we're born. Think about it. We're all cozy, warm in that nice womb, floating around, listening to mother's heartbeat, and then all of a sudden, even if it's the most beautiful birth in water, and everyone is loving, and there's no trauma during the birth, even if that is present, now there is a separation that is felt within the cells of the body between the mother and the child. That's the onset of the feeling of abandonment, which is the feeling of separation. If you want to look at it from a metaphysical or soul aspect, it is a mirror for our feeling separate from God and the drive we have to find that connection, to feel at home within spirit again. So that's always present. So when we talk about people having abandonment issues, it's everybody on the planet. It's not some unique experience. We all have felt this, and we can make a decision that it isn't an issue for us, that it's the state of the being, and not get lost in the drama of it and use it as an excuse to close ourselves down and protect ourselves.
Is there a way to live without this shield of protection?
It's a decision. We're free will beasties. We get to make our own choices in this world. And I realize that for some people it's easier than others, just depending upon how they've been raised and what their life has been like. And yet everyone has the capacity to make a decision to drop the armor of protection, which really doesn't do you any good, because we're all familiar with the law of attraction. Well, the way the law of attraction works is everything that you feel, you transmit an energy wave into the omniverse, into the universe, whatever you want to call the all it is. And when it receives that message, it says, oh, you want more of that. Because for every action in our world, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Equal and opposite. So it comes back towards it, and it says, you want more of that, you want more of that. So when we focus on this protection, then what the omniverse sees is, oh, this person needs to have more of the need for protection. Okay, we'll just give it more and more. Rather than saying, I'm going to open myself and be vulnerable to whatever comes, because I know that there is nothing that can harm me as a being, a God being, in a physical body. There's nothing that can harm the spirit of me. Yes, you can get run over by a truck. I understand that. But I'm not talking about that kind of harm. I'm talking about the kind of harm that would put an end to your consciousness. Impossible. So it's a choice to allow the consciousness to expand within the vulnerability that we have, that each person has to make for themselves or not. Some people don't want to do that. Some people would say, well, that's all fine for you because you've had this wonderful life. Well, come walk in my shoes and shudder, dear, because it hasn't been that way. So it's really the choice of each individual whether they're going to allow it for themselves or not.
Mm-hmm. So in your experience, what are the benefits of expressing our vulnerability?
You're free. It's freedom. Think about it. If you don't feel fear of anything, how free you are, and the only way you can do that is not to care what another person thinks. And the beauty of it is, and I just chuckle because I play with this a lot. I play with it to see if I'm right. I'm always proving my theories to myself, and the more I prove them, the more I realize how real they are. No one cares about what you are thinking or doing or saying. 99% of the time when someone is talking to you, or you're talking to them, they're thinking about something else. And it has nothing to do with even the conversation. Because everyone is so self-involved. I mean, they're just completely involved in themselves. Not bad. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast. So when we realize that, and we realize that when somebody says to you, I don't like your hair the way it is, it has something to do with how they see their own hair. It has nothing to do with your hair at all. You're a mirror for them that's reminding them of something they don't like about themselves. And when you can take that to the extreme, and it always shows up that way. And I just have to sit back and laugh and remember that I want to be compassionate and not just laugh in their face because I just want to say, oh, this is about you. Why don't you tell me about it?
Mm-hmm. And what would you tell people who are constantly saying to themselves, I do not want to feel vulnerable. I'm not going to be vulnerable ever.
Well, if somebody came to me and said that to me, I'd ask them why. And then, have some patience because you're going to hear a very long story about all of the things that have happened to them when they were vulnerable. Okay, so the question is, like that old phrase, how's that working for you? The question is, do you believe that by not being vulnerable, you are ever going to reach a place where you're going to be happy because you're stuck in the idea that it's impossible to be happy because there's all these things that are going to hurt you. You can never be happy. You have made a decision that you are living in a world of harm, a world of attack.
So what would be the difference for you then between expressing our vulnerability and being a victim?
Well, I don't believe in victims. First of all, a person who says they're a victim has made a choice to be in a position where something is happening to them that they don't like. Now, I realize that there are abusive situations and all of that stuff that goes with living on this planet. The question is, why are you remaining in that situation? And the person says, well, I won't have any place to go and I don't have anywhere to live. And there's always a place to go. There's always something else you can do if you really want to make the decision to own yourself. Then you can get into the whole psychology of the victim and the perpetrator and how they're linked together. But basically, there is no victim. You make a choice to victimize yourself. You betray yourself first, and then you blame it on somebody else because it's easier to do so. And there is no victimology in my world. Every person has made a choice, and in the choice that they make, even when they choose to walk down the dark alley, and then the mugger comes out in the dark alley, they made the choice to go in the dark alley. And their reptilian brain was saying, don't walk down that dark alley, and they ignored it.
What would you tell those people who want to express self-vulnerability, but they just don't know how to do it?
Take baby steps. Just start out with something easy. Start out with somebody. Probably the easiest way to do it would be to start out with somebody you consider a friend, but you know that there's some issue that the two of you have, because in most friendships there always is some little thing there, you're not too sure what it is. But on the overall picture is pretty good. To open your heart, and I literally use these words. I tell people, go to this person and say, I come to you with an open heart. Will you open your heart to me? And I have seen miracles happen, literally. And people said, oh yeah, right. Okay, I'll try it. And then they come back and they go, oh my gosh, let me tell you what happened. Because most people are not approached that way. Most people are approached like you've got a spear coming out, you're at them, and so they go into protection. But when you come out completely defenseless and you say, I'm absolutely open to you, will you open yourself to me so that we can talk about this, whatever that is, it changes the situation completely.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. We're in the last minutes of our interview. Is there anything else you would like to share with our listeners on vulnerability?
Oh yes. Go try it today. Try it on anything. Find something. Everybody has something or someone in their life that they can play this game with. I mean, I do it in the grocery store. I pick out different people to say things to just to play the game. we're living on a great game board of fun. Go have fun with this. And then when you see how much fun it is, you can start to take the stigma out of it and the fear out of it, and then you're free.
That's beautiful. Thank you very much, Toni. Thank you for
Thank
being
you,
with us
Luciana.
today, and I hope to have you again soon. Bye-bye.
Oh, me too. Bye-bye.